Welcome to a special edition of the D1 Baseball Nerdcast. It's the Christmas Eve show. It's like the Downton Abbey Christmas special. It's like the biggest show of the
I don't
year
know
in
what that
Great
is.
Britain. Don't worry about it. Not a big PBS guy down in Alabama. I'm shocked.
No,
I'm shocked.
no.
Hey, Aaron Fitt here, along with my good buddies Kendall Rogers, Mark After.
Mark after
Long
it.
week. We're off
It's
to a
been a
bad
long
start.
week.
We better
Mark after
Yeah,
it.
Mark, get after it. Mark Etheridge,
yeah.
the Nerdmaster General, is here. Hello, Marcus.
How's it going, guys? It's been a really interesting week because we start early in the morning and preparing for the day, and then we go into 1:30, 2 o'clock. At least my time. I'm in Central Time Zone every night, and then we do it again the next day. And I got to tell you, I've been home this week, and this woman that lives in my house just came up and introduced herself to me. Didn't we used to be married? So it's kind of one of those. It's been a grind. It's been a lot of fun, but I'm ready for a day off.
What is that?
Yeah,
I don't know. I
right.
don't know. We'll get that in July, maybe.
Maybe.
Hey, Kendall, how you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing well. Martha's buzzing tonight. Speaking of wives, my wife has the kids on the usual tradition of getting the kids the heck out of the house for selection day. So I'm doing well. I'm doing
Nice.
well. I'm running on fumes a little bit, but I'm good.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. This show, of course, brought to you by our friends at S2 Cognition and also our postseason sponsors, Kendall.
Yeah, Louisville Slugger. Thanks to those guys for partnering our postseason coverage. And then also armcare.com for sponsoring our conference tournament week coverage. I did a quick piece on those guys and just kind of the revolutionary product they have. They're basically what they're trying to do is create an app and a product that not only kind of judges the health of your arm, but also, by tracking kind of the status of your arm, you can increase velocity over time. So thanks to those guys as well.
Great week in conference tournaments, as always. Always the most manic, sleepless week of the year. But we made it. We've just about made it through. And now it's time for our final projection. And this one's a little easier than most of our shows because we already know the hosts, which is helpful. Those have been announced. Guys, I think we correctly projected 15 out of the 16 hosts in our final projection this morning. Now, that projection, of course, was before some games were played. And first of all, I mean, I think the Big 12 result should have played a factor because it boosted Oklahoma in the RPI. They beat, for me, it should have put them ahead of Texas and maybe even ahead of Oklahoma State in the pecking order. But Oklahoma State gets left out. That's a snub. Now, granted, we didn't have Oklahoma hosting this morning, but that was also before the game. Like if we had done our final projection after the Big 12 game, I absolutely would have had Oklahoma hosting. Number two, Notre Dame gets snubbed. Auburn is the team that gets in over Notre Dame. That's different from our projections. Mark, you have a piece up on the site reacting to the host announcements, but what's your quick take here on these kind of maybe slightly controversial decisions?
Yeah, a couple things. I do think that if you look at Auburn's resume, there were some things to like, and there wasn't a lot to not like. So they were more of a safe pick where their RPI where it is. They have some good series wins, some high end wins, as we like to say. So they were solid. They're a very defensible pick. Now maybe not ahead of Notre Dame. I think that was surprising to me. I do think that it's a committee situation. You've got two powerhouse leagues right now, ACC, SEC. We're both going to have 8, 9, 10, however many teams get in. And to be able to have 4 hosts from each conference, I think there's some equity there. And I have to think that played some role in this decision, whether they'll admit it or not. I think the other thing to think about is why are we doing the host while the games are still playing? I think, used to it was a day early, and I never really understood that. Maybe it was to give people more time to prepare. I don't know. But I think we're past that now. I don't know that we need one. I don't know why the Pac-12 is starting so late, right? Well, after everything's decided. I mean, the committee's probably asleep by now.
Got to get that primetime TV money out there. That's going to get
right.
bonkers ratings out there on the West Coast. They love their college baseball.
And it just so happens it's two teams that have really nothing to play for. But what if it wasn't? Right? What if these are bubble hosts, or what if these are bubble teams? Right? So I'm not a big fan of that. I think the other thing to think about is, where does the RPI play, and what did we learn from the host that we can, parlay into the rest of the field? And I do think that the RPI did matter. Um, with Texas A&M, that's really maybe Southern Miss. Those are really the only outliers from that, and they each have other things to offset that. But if you look at LSU, they didn't have a conference championship. They didn't finish second in the SEC like A&M did. They were definitely behind A&M in the pecking order, and because of that, they didn't have anything to offset that. And Auburn's RPI was higher, and Auburn beat them head to head, and I think that played a role in why Auburn hosted and LSU, is going to hit the road.
And I think that makes sense. I mean, I had Auburn higher in my pecking order than LSU. I just had them behind Notre Dame, which, I mean, and again, I think Auburn's a defensible choice. They were right there hosting for us all the way up until, I don't know, yesterday. I mean, we made that switch pretty late because it felt like other teams like North Carolina had just kind of passed them, and Texas had played their way past them.
Florida.
But Notre Dame, I mean, we had them as the number 8 national seed this morning. Now,
Yeah,
that was with the caveat that some teams could play their way up and pass them. I mean, maybe North Carolina, maybe East Carolina, one of those teams that were still playing on Sunday. Texas, those were teams that we had with a chance to pass Notre Dame. But I kind of thought the worst case scenario for the Irish would be like 12, 13, maybe, like not hosting at all. And I get the criticisms. I mean, and I had a whole Twitter thread on this. I don't want to go nuts on this one, but I mean, like, I get it. Like, they didn't have the greatest non-conference strength of schedule, and they had to cancel some games. Some of those definitely weather related. I mean, they're in they're in South Benton, for God's sakes. Like, our season starts in mid-February. It's not South. It's actually, they should call it North Bend.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the first 5 weeks of the year, you have to go on the road. You can't miss much class time there. They're very rigorous with that stuff at Notre Dame. I mean, they're just much more than almost every other school out there. It's like almost like an Ivy League kind of restrictiveness, I'm told. And Michael Patrick Rooney would probably be able to offer more insight on that. But anyway, it's hard. It's hard. And they went 18-12 in the ACC aggregate with a mid-teens RPI, and they're based in, I mean, like, northern Indiana. I mean, it's so hard to do that. And it's just hard to schedule up there too. And you're going to have cancellations because of the weather. And maybe the William & Mary series was a mark against them. But anyway, I was just shocked that they got screwed 2 years in a row. I mean, coming off a year where they win the league by 4, and they win the Atlantic Coast Conference by 4.5 games. This is not some rinky-dink league. It's the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they won it by 4.5 games. They don't get a top 8. And the following year, they go 18-12 in the ACC, and they don't get a host. It's just
I mean, so my thing on Notre Dame is this: if you're going to criticize their non-conference scheduling, that's fine. But to me, if that's going to be the differentiator of whether or not they get a top 16 or whether or not they don't get a top 16, to me, Notre Dame has to show cracks in the foundation in the ACC. Like they got to show in the ACC that they're just an okay team. What they've shown in the ACC is they're a really good team. So, like, honestly, like, I don't care if, like, your non-conference schedule wasn't that great if you played really, really well in a power conference. I know that sounds a little unfair because it's, the whole object here is, hey, you need to play a top-notch schedule, this and that. But, like, let's not forget that the ACC only has like a couple of weekends of non-conference plays. So Notre Dame took care of business in the number 2 or number 3 RPI league in the country, and that should be more than enough. And this is 2 years in a row that it's happened to him. If I'm Lee Jarrett, I'm ultra disappointed. I don't know what you do at this point. The other thing I was going to say, guys, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is one of those teams that, had the committee waited till after the Big 12 championship, let's say the hosts were announced at 8:30, or had the Big 12 been a little earlier, are they hosting? Because here's a little note for you. We all think A&M's a top 8 national seed. Texas A&M should be a top 8 national seed. With that said, when you look at Oklahoma is now 4 spots or 3 spots ahead of A&M in the RPI. Oklahoma now has 3 more wins versus RPI top 50 teams than A&M. They're the Big 12 tournament champion. They finished 1 game out of first place in the Big 12. and Oklahoma's not hosting. And A&M is a team that we all feel like is a slam dunk top 8. That like those two things like are like those two things can't go together, in my opinion.
And the only reason, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, and just one more thing on that. So the conference tournament, it looked like it really mattered this year. Sometimes you feel like you know it doesn't matter as much, or it doesn't matter after a certain day. I think it mattered a lot this year, and that's what makes it surprising for me that two of the teams that got snubbed played well in conference tournaments. Notre Dame was really impressive, won their pool, made it to the semifinals, and ran into a buzzsaw, right? And then Oklahoma won the Big 12 tournament. Those were two of the biggest snubs, and they played well this week. Meanwhile, you've got North Carolina, Florida. They go on really great runs to, I guess, mitigate some regular season kind of mediocrity where you're in the middle. You're 15 and 15, whatever they were. So I think that's interesting to me. I don't know what to draw from it, but it is if part of your criteria is to look at the full body of work, we really seem to weight these last few days heavily. Maybe rightfully so, but we do, but only when it suits us.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like we weigh the last week heavily until the last day, and it's like, well, winning that title doesn't matter. We're not even going to wait. We're not going to bother to wait for you to finish playing your freaking championship game. That's stupid. All right, that's stupid. If we're going to do this, you can wait another 2 hours. The teams don't need that extra 2 hours to prepare their regional site. Give me a break. Yeah. That's dumb. And listen,
I'm on board.
Go ahead, Mark.
So, the other thing, and we can move on to the next topic. But the other thing is, we get all the way to the end of the tournament, and then you're throwing guys who have thrown like 4 innings all year. And the key, that's what we need to measure to see if you're a good team or not.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this guy who's never go season, but in our 6th game in 4 days. So, hey, you got to throw, or else we got to bring somebody back who threw 100. Not a fan.
Right, and that's dumb. And I'm with you on that point. I mean, maybe if more leagues had less taxing conference tournament structures, we wouldn't have that problem. Double elimination, as you know, I'm not a fan because that's that.
Yeah, what was it? What was it? Campbell threw a guy 145 pitches.
I don't want to.
No, it was Louisiana. I think it was the Schultz kid threw like 143 pitches the other night. So
anyway, I don't want to get into all that.
They did not bring him back today.
It's a whole other can of worms. To their credit.
What about his other arm?
But just, I want to make the final point on Oklahoma. The reason that they're not hosting is because this morning, I don't know where they were in the RPI. If they were in the 20s somewhere, mid to late 20s. 25. Now they're 19. The last day of the season is a 6-spot difference. That's how stupid it is to make these decisions based on RPI. It's like, but anyway, the only reason they weren't hosting. Yeah, it is. But the only reason they weren't hosting was because they were in the 20s in the RPI. Everything else they had going for them. Conference standings, momentum, lots of head-to-head metrics were good. And now they're in the top 20 in the RPI, and they won they won a trophy, and like they have the best aggregate mark in the Big 12. Like they should absolutely be hosting. But we couldn't wait for that game to end. And so anyway, it's bad. It's we got to fix it. We can do better. Committee, I hope you're watching because we can do better and we need to do better. This is stupid. All right, let's move on. Part 2. Hey guys.
Power to the people. Go Oklahoma.
It's just some of this stuff. It just doesn't make sense, guys. All right, so we know our hosts. That's water under the bridge. We've said our piece. This is fun, Sometimes it's good to get things off.
Is it really? Chest. You're totally gonna bring this up again later in the podcast.
No, I'm done. Okay. Rant over. Save. I got some rants left in the tank for tomorrow when some teams that I like get snubbed, which is probably going to happen. Let's take a conference by conference look at the automatic and at-large picture here. I think the worksheet is updated and ready to go with all of the bids. That have already been clinched. So we can run through this pretty quickly because we don't have to bother projecting any of our automatic qualifiers. That's useful, guys. America East, we got Binghamton. Congratulations to the Bearcats. The American Athletic Conference is East Carolina. This is a one-bid league. Nobody else is really even close.
18 straight wins for the Pirates.
Was it 18 or 9? Did they get to 19? It's a lot of wins in a row, whatever it is. And boy, they also jumped into the top 8.
18.
Actually, that reminds me, I guess before we get to the conference by conference here, automatics and at-larges, should we do our top 8 or our top 16? Should we do that? That's what
I love that East Carolina, we've talked all year about just the RPI and like how even this late in the game it's fluctuating so much. Look at some of these RPI increases. You got North Carolina is the biggest one of note. We're actually East Carolina was 17 spots up. North Carolina, with their run in the ACC tournament, winning that is up 13 spots, number 3 overall. You got Florida with that run in Hoover up 12 spots, and then you have Oklahoma, who we just talked about, up 12 spots, and then we have some teams that actually dropped still 9 and 8 spots. So even the last weekend of the regular season / conference tournament, the RPI is still fluctuating quite a bit, guys.
Yeah. The ranks did, because the actual score, they were really close together. There just wasn't a lot of separation. So when you win a couple games or you have things affect your rating, you can really make these wild jumps. And I don't understand why why it was this way this year, but that's what happened.
I'll tell you what else. I mean, and it's kind of a great example of the way the formula works is, some team that you played back in February wins 18 games in a row, let's say, and you swept that team, let's say, in February. What I'm trying to say is North Carolina sweeps East Carolina early, and then East Carolina goes on this crazy run. That really helps North Carolina with each successive win. You wonder why North Carolina is number 3 in the RPI. East Carolina getting hot plays a big role in that, at least some role in that.
Yeah, it's a high winning percentage. Yeah, it sure is.
In tandem with North Carolina getting hot, obviously.
Mm-hmm. They did their part.
They did their part. Hey, so let me backtrack, and I apologize for the disorganization of this show today. It's Christmas Eve. None of us have had any sleep.
It was my fault for bringing up East Carolina's winning streak. That got us started.
I can't remember, but so let's backtrack to do our top 16 seeds. Do you want to do it that way, guys, like we usually do, right? And then we'll get into conference by conference. Okay.
I'll take number 1.
Okay, Mark, you can have this. What do you got?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with the Vols.
Okay.
All right.
Well, so earlier I broke the news that Tennessee was hosting, so that was one of the biggest stories I've ever broken.
Premium scoop. Well done.
Yeah. Martha got that one.
Get it, Martha. Number 2 for me is, I know that we're as we record this or stream it live, if you're watching live, Stanford leads Oregon State 3-0 in the Pac-12 title game. I don't think it matters. I think win or lose, Stanford.
I don't know if Oregon State has pitching left.
I would imagine it's pretty burned after yesterday. What a manic day in the Big 12. But I think win or lose, it's Stanford. They won the regular season. They've reached they're red hot. Everything's there.
Agree.
Yeah, 40-14, pretty good.
Beavers actually are ahead in the RPI right now, though. Beavers now, at the moment,
they have a really good resume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Beavers 2, Stanford 4, North Carolina 3, and then Virginia Tech is 5. So Stanford 2. For me, I think the candidates for the next spot would be Virginia Tech and Oregon State.
Yep.
And I don't know which direction to go in. I was kind of thinking Virginia Tech. I don't know if the fact that the Beavers have moved back up to 2 in the RPIs and reached the title game, is that a factor in their favor? While Virginia Tech went just 1-1 this week. I don't know. What do you guys think here?
I like Oregon State. Oregon State 3.
Okay, well that's easy enough.
4.
Beavers have a lot of Q2 wins. That stands out to me. They're 13-9 top 50, which is fine. Virginia Tech 15-9. But here's where the Beavers separate themselves: 20-4 in that next group, 50-100.
That's really good.
Wow. Good with Hokies 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've had the Aggies 5 last couple projections. I think I'm still comfortable with that.
Yep. On board.
Texas A&M. We've had Maryland 6 the last couple. I don't know what the other options are here. I mean, you could look at I mean, this is where it starts to get a little trickier. I think I still like Maryland personally.
Yeah.
Kendall?
Yep.
We can do that. I mean,
there's
not much
no reason to
change
drop
since
them.
yesterday. Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. And then this morning, and these were the two that we debated the most, and we weren't really convicted on Miami and Notre Dame. I'm going to say we go ahead and drop Notre Dame out of our top 8.
Yeah.
I don't think
You're
that's
gonna
going
do
to
that?
happen. I don't think that's going to happen with the Irish. Unlikely at best. Maybe they'll throw us a curveball. Notre Dame will be like the
Have
number 8
them on the
national
road.
seed on the road.
Yeah.
Don't count on it. So we can kind of reevaluate these spots now. I mean, looking at now we have really basically the entire body of work. We're still waiting on just one game, the Pac-12. Everything else is done now, right? Big 10 game was the last one we were waiting on. So we kind of have the picture, and we can take a step back. RPI wise, you've got East Carolina, you've got Oklahoma State, you got Georgia Southern. Those teams are 8, 10, and 11. North Carolina obviously at 3 with a 19 and 15 aggregate ACC. Now they did go just 500 regular season, but I mean, the last 4 games count too. So I mean, you can throw that into the mix. They've got tied with Tennessee for the most top 50 wins in the country. They're 20 and 16. It's a lot of top 50 games, by far the most. Tennessee 20 and 3. That's a pretty good winning percentage. Anyway, so those look like the candidates to me. Texas was in our discussion this morning. They kind of fall out of it, I think, after not winning today. They're down to 16. You've got Southern Miss was in our discussion, but I still feel like 18 in the RPI probably too low.
I really just that East Carolina's up to 8.
Yeah, that's a jump. That's a big jump.
17 points. I mean,
I don't know when that 17-point jump is since. Is that since last week?
Yeah.
Or
what's
last
the
Sunday,
delta on it? Yeah.
And that's the thing about East Carolina too. I mean, the top 50 metrics at 2 and 7 are very impressive, but that is a regular season championship, a conference tournament championship, and 18 straight wins.
And a top 10 RPI. I mean, that's check.
Yeah, it's really just the only black mark against them at this point, I think, is the 2 and 7 top 50, which is a big black mark.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, 19 and 5, 51 to 100 makes up for it some.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like Miami and East Carolina in that order.
So Miami,
with Miami,
go ahead,
it's
Mark.
the quote ACC champion. I know it was percentage points. They were second, but they were right. So is that why we're thinking them?
Here's what I don't like.
It's comparable to my thing with Miami is it's comparable to A&M. It's a team with a lower than you really want RPI that actually has pretty good metrics and actually won a division in the conference.
Here's the difference. They did not win
their division.
Actually,
I thought they won their division.
They're in the same one with the Hokies.
Oh. Well, I think it's like a 678 and a 667.
Right, it's very close. Very close. Yeah. So the difference, though, from versus them versus A&M is the finish, right? I mean, Aggies red hot. Miami just limped at the end, which I do think.
Other than the Notre Dame series,
they did win the Notre Dame 2 of 3, which was the last week in the regular season, which does carry weight.
According to the committee, that's not a very impressive series win.
Yeah, that's great point. We have a commenter, Daniel points out they're the only team in the ACC that got to 20 wins in league play. And I believe that even is the case with aggregate, right? Or did the Hokies get what did the Hokies finish at? No, Hokies also got to 20 with aggregate, 20 and 10. North Carolina got to 19 wins. Down the stretch there, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they were 2 and 6 in their last 8. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the momentum is that much a factor. It's basically the strikes against them are kind of a mediocre finish. Although you mentioned the Notre Dame series at the end was nice, and number 15 RPI for top 8. But I mean, does the conference record offset that? Maybe.
That's what you'd be leaning on. You'd be leaning on that conference record. because the RPI isn't there.
And they did
But
sweep.
for
and
A&M,
granted,
they showed they did that.
Yeah.
So it's to Kendall's point.
Miami did sweep North Carolina. Granted, it was early. It was in March. But it's a sweep. I mean, that's part of the body of work. Now, UNC is the other one I do think we have to talk about because it's obviously it's a different team now than it was even a month ago. But so the things in their favor, RPI, they're number 3. I mean, it just is what it is. It's loud. They did just win the ACC tournament, which, you've got
And
2
they
chances to win a
rolled through
trophy.
it.
They just dominated. They dominated 4, and they played. They didn't have any dead games either.
Yeah.
They had to win the Clemson game first. Then they had Virginia Tech, the top seed. They demolished them 10-0. And a game both teams had to win. And they, beat up on, it was a more competitive game against Notre Dame, but they distanced themselves. I think it was 7-2 against Notre Dame. And they pounded NC State. I mean, Wolfpack got a couple runs late to make it more respectable looking, but I mean, it was 9-0 or something, 9-1 at one point early. So anyway, yes, it was a strong showing. You got 2 chances to win a trophy, regular season, and then the conference tournament. Winning one of those 2 does mean something. So that's one factor. 2, 19 and 15. I mean, I think those conference tournament games should count the same as the regular season games. And if you enter the regular season, the last weekend of the regular season with a 500 record, then you sweep a good team, your fortunes could change very dramatically, right? I mean, we see that all the time. If you enter the conference tournament with a 500 record and then you go 4-0, it's like a sweep +1, I mean, like it's just, I think that's an appropriate way to view it. So I think 19 and 15 is the relevant number, not 15 and 15 personally. And I don't know for sure that the committee sees it the same way, but we've gotten indications lately, in recent years, that that's how they view it, is the aggregate conference record. So those are things in their favor.
Yeah. And by the way, I think we were discussing last week or in the middle of the week about the midweek games. Those games do matter in your aggregate, by the way.
Okay, you figured that out.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
So like in Ole Miss's case, then that would be helpful for them because they beat Mississippi State midweek. Yep. And then the last thing for North Carolina, 15-2 down the stretch, just the momentum stretch, 15-2, pretty loud. So does all that add up to a national seed? I don't know, but because I think them versus Miami is a fascinating discussion.
Well, North Carolina looked like a top 8, the last couple weeks of the season anyway. So it's just a question of, again, what do you value? What I always say, what's more important to you? Are you looking at the full body of work? Are you looking at certain metrics? Are you looking at the eye test? How did they look on the field? What do you value? Because there's really not a right or wrong. Well, there are some wrongs, but there's more right, than others. And you really can't go wrong with Miami, with who's East Carolina we were talking about, North Carolina. I think any of those 3 would be okay. It's just what does our committee want to say is the most important to us?
So I guess we should get to the voting time here. We had Miami this morning. I'd be fine with Miami still, unless you think North Carolina did enough to pass them. I don't think there's another team. I don't think there's another team like the East Carolina. Could they pass them based on today's win?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think the thing about East Carolina, I think Miami would be 7. That's where we are, right? So they would be 7,
right.
And then we're looking at East Carolina, North Carolina. How do you want to break that tie? Because they're both on a hot streak. They both have great RPIs. The difference would be East Carolina doesn't play in as good a league, so they don't have as many opportunities, but they want it, and they kind of had their way with it.
And I do need to correct myself. Earlier, I said North Carolina swept ECU early. I meant it was 2 out of 3. They won the 2 games in Chapel Hill, lost the game in Greenville. So it's not quite the same as Miami sweeping North Carolina early, but it's a factor. There is a head-to-head result here. I don't know. I mean, the fact that ECU won its league by how many games? 4 something? 6? Yeah. Jesus, they won it by 6 games. I mean,
granted, that league wasn't very good.
Yeah, it's a one-bid league, but still.
Yeah, I mean, the next best RPI team is 80. They're 8. So pretty big
So
disparity there.
that makes it even harder to do because you don't
Yeah.
have your classmates to pump up your score.
How about this? I mean, again, because Mark, you're right. Like both teams red hot down the stretch. 18 in a row is very loud, but so is it actually louder than 15 out of 17 against the competition that North Carolina faced?
No,
I don't know that it is.
I think North Carolina certainly faced more difficult competition.
Dramatically more difficult. I mean, ECU 2-7 top 50. What do we say North Carolina's top 50? 18, 20 and 16.
Yeah.
20 and 16 versus 2 and 7.
Yeah. Let's go Heels.
You good with that, Kendall?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess ECU would be next.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at the RPI, I mean, you've got, Oklahoma State's at 10, Georgia Southern's at 11. If Georgia Southern would have won that game today, they would not be sitting at 16 like we've been having them for a month now.
You're right.
They would certainly be higher. I think that they missed an opportunity. I think it's too early for Florida. So who are you looking at? Is it Oklahoma State here?
10 RPI. It's actually a pretty good balance of RPI with a good conference showing, 15 and 9. And this week they went
2-2, I think.
2 and 2, 3 and 2. 3 and 2.
Oh well, okay.
Beat Baylor, TCU, and Texas. Lost to Texas twice. So, so that is 18. Then 18 and 11 aggregate. Actually, pretty good. It's like
that is pretty good.
They have a good resume. They do if you look at it.
I mean, it's kind of like Notre Dame's resume, like 18 and 11. Anyway,
yeah,
but
I mean,
yeah. I'm sorry, but Oklahoma State is better non-conference, right? Like they went to Vanderbilt, won a series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about Oklahoma State too, guys, is they won 4 out of 6 games over Texas this year. So,
yeah, I mean, that's maybe that's a team that moves up.
I like them here.
Okay. I mean, if Oklahoma had been in the pool of 16, like I might have had Oklahoma here. I mean,
right.
Like, geez, Oklahoma and Notre Dame might be these next two teams if they were in the pool of 16, honestly.
Yeah.
So far, not thrilled with the committee here. I mean, they did okay. They got anyway. We're not gonna go. I said we're not gonna go back down that road. Moving on. Oklahoma State's 10. We had Southern Miss this morning in this ballpark. We had Louisville, Florida, of course. Nothing really changed for them since this morning. We kind of assumed they were unlikely to beat Tennessee. Could beat Tennessee,
especially throwing a guy who thrown as many pitches as I have this year. So it was.
Yeah, whenever when a guy comes in the game and I don't know who you are, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Who was it? Who could say?
I don't remember
Martha?
his name now.
Okay. Let's see. So we've got those teams, I guess. Louisville. I should probably write down the actual teams. So Auburn is one. I would have them at the bottom personally. I mean, again, not to dump on Auburn. Like they were right there in our mix. Okay. They're worthy host.
Yeah, apparently Auburn fans on Twitter are thinking because we think Notre Dame's in, or Notre Dame should have gotten in, that we hate Auburn. So that's always fun.
Like I said, we had 8 teams behind Notre Dame this morning, not just Auburn, like, so Auburn, Florida, Georgia Southern. I mean, so Georgia Southern, we've had them 16 like for a while. Should they still be down there after losing today? Should they be ahead of Auburn?
I would keep them at the bottom. Had they won today, I would move them up.
The Georgia Southern 16, Auburn 15, maybe. We're working our way up from the bottom. So then we've got Florida, Louisville, Southern Miss,
Texas.
and Texas. All right. So we got to order those teams.
I think I still like Texas right after OSU.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Texas, eh?
Then Southern Miss.
So Texas, after losing today, they're 16th in the RPI with
17-12 aggregate.
thank you, 17 and 12 aggregate. Southern Miss, 18 RPI, won their regular season. Obviously, just 6 and 10, top 50, but dominated the league.
Yeah, it was a good league too.
Yep.
Yeah.
2 and 2 this week, so that puts them at 25 and 9 aggregate in Conference USA. And like you said, it was a good league, plenty of good wins. But you like Texas over them, or I think I like Southern Miss personally.
Okay. Yeah, I could go either way on that one, guys.
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, let's go Southern Miss, then Texas, and then
What
I
about
think I like Florida would be the next team.
So you'd have Louisville down at 14.
I would.
Louisville, number 17 RPI, 18, 13 and 1 aggregate ACC. 0 and 2 this week. A little fizzleage there, but good top 50, 16, 11 and 1. All the ACC teams have a lot of top 50 games. Their RPIs are stuffed up there this year. Florida, kind of a North Carolina light with their resume. They both went 15 and 15 in their leagues in the regular season, boosted their aggregates in the conference tournament. UNC finished its job. Florida didn't. So that's one difference. And UNC, with the 20 and 16 top 50, Florida just 11 and 17 top 50. So there's a pretty big difference there.
Well, in fairness, Florida ran into a big orange machine.
The Beavers? Oklahoma State? Virginia?
Yeah.
Texas?
Yeah. The Hokies?
One of those teams.
The team with the Chicago
baseball,
orange and maroon colors?
Yeah. It was the guys with the daddy coat. Whoever
Mark, have you ever flipped your bat like Drew Gilbert? Did you see the bat flip today?
Actually,
that was great.
Actually, when I write a good column, that's how I celebrate.
I can't believe
there goes the keyboard.
Hey, by the way, Aaron, that was Carson Finvold is who started for Florida today.
Yeah, that's a guy. I wrote about him in the fall report. I'm sure if you Sure, if you check your Florida fall report, you'll probably find that name.
He pitched well. he did his job.
Pitched really well.
Yeah, they've got a lot. It's Florida. They always have guys. For me, I think I've got Florida the third out of these three teams. But I'm not married to that idea. But I think I like Louisville and Texas ahead of Florida. But I don't know.
I'd go Louisville, or excuse me, Texas, Louisville, Florida.
I think I'm on board with that. Texas, Louisville, Florida feels right to me. I just think the top 50, 16 and 11 for Louisville, 11 and 17 for Florida. I know Florida's higher in the RPI, but and conference record also 11 and 18 and even with an 0 and 2 week for Louisville, 18, 13 and 1. I don't know. I like Louisville, then Florida.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And then we got Auburn 15. Georgia Southern 16. So there you go. We've got our top 16. Let's pivot. Let's pivot to part 2. We had already started this, so I apologize again for the false start earlier. But conference by conference, we had Binghamton, the American East, East Carolina, and the American. The A10 is VCU. Congratulations to the Rams, perennial power in that league. They finished second in the regular season behind Davidson. Davidson, great year, 40 odd wins. Not going to get in that large, of course, with a 71 RPI, but boy, it's a tough pill to swallow. You go 43 and 13 and 20 and 4 in your league, and they have talent, but anyway, is what it is. On we go to the ACC, guys. I think this is pretty locked in. Miami, I'm sorry, in no particular order, I guess. You've got Virginia Tech, you've got Miami. We've got
Louisville,
North Carolina, Louisville, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame still getting in?
I think they still get in. I'm no longer convinced that that's the case. Wake Forest, by the way. It's funny that we didn't even talk much about Wake as a host, and they had 6 RPI and did have a winning record in their league.
Mhm.
Just one game over 500. Anyway,
And what was their ACC record again, or their ACC tournament record?
1-1. So it was
1-1.
16, 15 and 1 aggregate. I mean, anyway, that's a number 6 RPI team with a winning record in the league that's going to be on the road in regionals. Just a strange year. That's almost a slam dunk host. But
Yeah.
You got Florida State, who is safe, I think, still.
Yeah.
Even with a shrunken bubble, they went 1-1 in the ACC tournament, 16 and 16 aggregate with a 29 RPI. NC State certainly did what it needed to do, reaching Sunday in the conference tournament. 3-0 run puts them at 17 and 15 aggregate, a 3-1 run, 17 and 16 aggregate, 32 RPI. They're fine. Georgia Tech, Virginia, obviously I skipped over, but they're fine. Georgia Tech up to 21 in the RPI, 1-1 this week. They're fine. 500 league record. So I think that's it. Clemson is just not even close to room for them.
Not anymore. Nope.
With this bubble. So we'll move on to the ASUN. And we'll have to talk about Liberty. They're going to be one of our bubble teams. Kennesaw takes the automatic bid today in the conference title game. Liberty, I think, has a pretty darn good case, but so do a lot of teams in this bubble. But I mean, it's a 31 RPI, guys. A team that, did they wind up having the top seed in the conference tournament? I can't remember who the
No, yeah, they were, but it wasn't based on standings. It was based on tarot card readings or something.
I'm pretty sure that's how they did it.
Wasn't that Miss Cleo came into town and drew names?
Yeah.
Can you imagine
She's a big baseball fan.
Can you imagine what the Reverend Jerry Falwell would have said if that's how they had done it? He would have. Oh man.
Oh boy.
That's probably shouldn't go.
Speaking of going down rabbit holes.
Hey, 19 and 11 in the league's pretty good. They reached the finals of the conference tournament. They went 4-1. They won their first 4 games. They just didn't win the last one. 31 RPI. For me, I think they're one of our teams, but we'll see how many we got. Yeah. I think it's a very strong case. Moving along, Big 12, guys. This is another one that kind of hurts a little bit to have to cut a team that I think in a lot of years has a strong case. Like in a lot of years, West Virginia, after going 14-10 regular season in this league, even with a 50 RPI, even with an 0-2 conference tournament showing, a lot of years they're one of our last teams on the borderline. And this year, I don't think they're very close. They just almost have no chance because of the bubble.
Yeah, it's really an odd year, and we can get into why later. But they're just a casualty of just the weird stuff that's happened. I always and I'll digress a little bit, but we always say, well, unless something weird happens, they'll get in, right? Well, that's what we have this year. We had several. We had a boatload of weird.
We have 5 locks: Oklahoma State, TCU. Well, is Texas Tech a lock? I think they're fine.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's a 45 RPI, which is why I bring it up. But I mean, 15-9 in the league. I mean, obviously,
they finished high in the league. Going back to West Virginia real quick, the problem you ran into with their resume is if you look at their resume, series lost to OU, series lost to Texas, series lost to Texas Tech, series lost to Oklahoma State. Really, all they have is a series win at TCU, and that's it. That is their whole resume.
Yep.
And I'll give them Charlotte. Charlotte started to kind of find its stride late in the year. They do have a series win over Charlotte, but their RPI 75, so it's not like it's doing very much for you.
But if you go 4 games over 500 in that league, typically you're getting in.
Yeah. No doubt.
I agree. So this is a weird one, and it's just 2 games over aggregate because it's 0-2 in the conference tournament, which plays in. I want to backtrack for just a second because this is a legitimate question from Davis here in the chat. And I just feel like maybe we glossed over this too quickly. If Clemson is quote unquote not close, why would Wofford and Liberty? I don't know if Kendall, if you can show this on the screen. This question. Why would Wofford and Liberty be serious contenders? Clemson RPI was better than Wofford, about the same as Liberty. What makes Liberty case stronger than Clemson? Genuinely curious. And I appreciate the question. The problem for Clemson is it's the 11th team in their conference pecking order, and it's So they went 0-2 in the conference tournament. So that's 13-18 aggregate in their league. And it's just, Mark, I mean, history for teams with that kind of winning percentage in their league is it's just not kind. I mean, you just have to do better against the teams in your conference, your peers. And I get it that like the teams they're playing are better than the teams that Liberty and Wofford are playing in their leagues, but that's just how this system is set up. Like you are compared against your peers, whether you think that's fair or not. And I think it is because you have more resources than the teams in the ASUN and the SoCon. And like you just have to do well against the teams that you're playing against.
Right. And I feel the same way about some of the teams in the SEC too. If you finish 11th or 12th in your league, should you really be playing for a national title? You're not playing for your conference title.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I'm sure could work against North Carolina if they don't get a top 8. Is like, hey, they were the 8th seed in the conference tournament. We're going to make them the 8th national seed after 4 games.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I get why that seems weird. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's too late to revisit that now, but that makes me a little nervous about that. Moving along. Where are we?
ACC. We just finished it.
Thank you.
No, we just finished the Big 12.
Big 12. Yeah, come on,
that's
Mark.
right. Yeah, we had the question.
Try to keep
that's
up.
Right.
I just had a little diversion there.
We put Kansas State in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
UConn takes care of business in the Big East, which helps the bubble, certainly. Because, I mean, I don't know if they would have gotten in or not, frankly.
Not
but
with this
they
bubble.
might have. Yeah, maybe not with this bubble. I'm glad we don't have to worry about it. It's nice when they make it so we don't have to worry about it. Big Ten, we had a bid, quote unquote, stolen this evening. And I get why some people don't like that.
You forgot the Big South.
I did. Campbell. Sorry. My Camels.
They made
took care of business. They got
Kate Kuehler still pitching.
And I took some whatever.
Did you get heat for that?
Well, yeah. I mean, always, anytime you criticize anyone. I mean, I didn't like the fact that they brought him back. Only a couple of batters. I get it, but like literally the next day after he threw.
It's not a bullpen day. It's the next day.
0 days rest. Hats off to the kid. Cade Keeler, you're a warrior. You're a badass. You're the ultimate team guy. You're a first-round talent who's putting your team ahead of yourself. Okay, hats off to you. You're a badass. I don't like the coach. I wish they could have done it without using him. That's all I'm going to say about that. Nonetheless,
are you still on Team Campbell getting Omaha?
Listen, you guys know I've been banging the drum for the Camels all year long. I even told you earlier this weekend that if after they lost, they fell in the losers bracket. I said, if we have a tournament without Campbell and regionals, then the national champ deserves an asterisk because it's an Omaha caliber team that needs to be in the field. So regardless of what I think about the pitching thing, I think it's cool to see what Campbell can do this week. So
Mark, who was your Omaha sleeper?
I don't remember now. I can't remember. I'm sure it was somebody who's going to make it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember now.
All right, now can I do the Big Ten, guys? Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it.
We had a bid.
So somebody didn't like stolen bids?
Some people find that term offensive, but
well, we wouldn't want to offend anyone.
That's right. We would not. Michigan steals a bid from another at-large team.
Bid Steelers. # bid Steelers.
That's right. Congratulations to Wolverines this evening. They take down Rutgers. Maryland obviously in already. And Rutgers is kind of the next team up for discussion here. I mean, this is I feel like they're going to be fine because Big Ten, because it's, a northern team with a 42 RPI had a great year in their league. Big Ten, I mean, as I tweeted like today, Big Ten does get a little bit more leeway, and they should because of weather and travel. Like those are real challenges. They do and they should get a little more leeway. I think they're fine, but they're on the bubble. They're in our bubble pool. Agreed?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And that's it. I was not there with a 60 RPI. Nope. Just too tight of a bubble. Big West, obviously the Gauchos and Ace. To the Colonial. That was Spanish, by the way, guys. Ace. That's all. Colonial, we had an upset here. How about the Hofstra Pride? Frank the Cat, guys. Frank Catalanato, in his first year as a head coach at Hofstra, leads the Pride to its first ever
Yeah.
CAA
How about
championship.
that?
They had a good year. I mean, they finished tied for second behind College of Charleston, 30-21 in the league, and they take the cake. Cougars, guys. I mean, great year to win the league by 4 games. Mid-major life is harsh. 66 RPI. Their season is over. On we go to the Conference USA. Southern Miss, of course, in already. Louisiana Tech in already, wins the automatic bid. Congratulations to the Bulldogs, a team that we thought was probably in regardless today. They played their way up. They're up to 33 in the RPI, so I wonder if they could even be on the 2 line. UTSA and Old Dominion were both in for us this morning. Old Dominion, I think, was our last team in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So much has changed.
Seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? So UTSA, after losing today, right? That was today, that game.
Yeah. It was a really good game, too.
Yeah, it seemed like it. UTSA is 37 in the RPI. Old Dominion is 40. Do we have aggregates here we can look at? They both went 19 and 11 in the regular season. These teams were mirror images, like all the way.
UTSA went 22 and 12 in aggregate games.
Okay, because they went what?
Old Dominion
3-1 this week. UTSA
went 22 and 22 and 13.
Okay, so ODU had an extra game because they were in the
Right.
losers bracket, so they went 3-2.
And it's also worth noting that UTSA won a road series at ODU this year.
Right.
Okay.
I
do have
they're
UTSA.
really similar. I did a bubble story on this, so I can give you a little bit here. But with UTSA 9-9, the pros 9-9 against the top 50, or at least these numbers were this morning. 18 and 14 against top 100. They had the series win at ODU, and they went 3-1 in the conference tournament, which kind of helped a little bit. And they beat Southern Miss twice to do it. Their cons, their non-conference RPI 107, non-conference strength of schedule 224. And then for Old Dominion, pros 5-1 against the top 25, 8-7 against top 50, some more high end, 19 and 15 against top 100, which is pretty similar. The series win at Southern Miss. They also beat East Carolina and Virginia. But their cons, again, strength of schedule, 127 non-conference RPI, 276 non-conference strength of schedule, 15 games against teams 200 or worse. And they lost a head-to-head to UTSA.
Are those the numbers from this morning, or are those the updated?
They were.
Okay.
No, they were when I did the story this morning.
Gotcha. Okay, so I see conflicting things depending on which source you look at. So I don't know which reference to go by.
And
frankly,
again, like we talked about, the RPI is moving a lot, so you can move out of that top 50 or top 100 or whatever it is, that tier.
Yep.
So it's when you look at it.
So I have UTSA ahead, though. I mean, based on
I do too. The head-to-head, but they're so close.
Better RPI, and they went farther this week.
Mm-hmm.
So and we'll see if there's room for both of them, or just one, or what. Right. But I would think there'd be at least one of these teams gets in, maybe both. We'll come back to it. Leave them both on the board here as we move on to the horizon. Wright State. Congratulations to the Raiders, perennial powerhouses going back to regionals. Ivy, of course, is Columbia, already clinched. The MAC is Canisius.
Yes, it is.
Another, I think we're starting to get to a point where Canisius is almost a perennial power in this league. This is their 4th trip to regionals, I think, since 2013. If I'm not mistaken, that's off the top of my head, but I think that's right. Central Michigan guys, boy, the fighting Jordan Bischels. I mean, I think it was
their first 5 to Ball State.
How about that? And they still find a way.
Won the 2 that mattered.
I love that it came down to those 2 teams because they were the 2 best teams in the league, by far. And it was a great game too. It looked like it was really competitive. I didn't get to watch it, but I followed it some. And anyway, Central Michigan beats Ball State, wins the MAC, one bid league. MEAC, we already have decided that's Coppin State. Missouri Valley guys, boy, the Salukis gave them all they could handle today.
Mhm.
They did win the first game. They forced a decisive rematch, but Missouri State hangs on. Missouri
Yep.
State, the 6th seed in that league, went 8-13 in conference and regular season. They're headed to regionals. How about
Yeah.
that? Keith Gutton, he's been doing this a long time. He knows how to get to the postseason. On they go. And they've won regionals too. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to bet
Hosted.
against Keith Gutton. Yeah, they have.
They even hosted. Mhm.
Dallas Baptist is a bubble team, gentlemen.
They are. Great
23
non-conference resume.
Yeah.
It's really, really great. Number one non-conference strength schedule.
About that.
And then you look at them in conference. It's just two these things don't add up. How can you be so good in non-conference and then go in that league and be mediocre? Was it 12, 11, and 1, something like that?
That's the
So
aggregate.
yeah,
It was
so
11-9
not
regular season, which was third place and well back of Southern Illinois. And then they went 1-2 in the conference tournament. So that's 12. I'm sorry. Yeah, 12, 11, and 1.
so basically as long as they can avoid Missouri State, they may win the whole thing. They're great non-conference.
You're right. To that point,
That was a
I mean,
joke,
just-
guys.
I know. I give you
Maybe it wasn't
gentle,
funny, but it was a joke.
I gave you a subtle chortle. That's all you. I think that's all you're going to get from me
Chortle.
tonight.
Chortle.
Um,
It's a good word.
They won a series at San Diego, West Coast Conference champion, heading to regionals. Might have been that large team. I mean, they were right
Yeah.
there. Southern Miss, they swept. It was a home series in March, but it's, you know, that's a regional host. It's a good
Yeah.
weekend.
Very good.
At Oral Roberts, regional team, conference champion, they swept that series. 2 out of 3 against Maryland, potential national seed, top 8 seed, a host. They did lose 2 out of 3 at home to Wofford. We'll come back to this. Remember that. And then, you know, and then a mediocre showing in the league. It's like, what do you do
Yeah.
with this? It's a 23 RPI. That got that going for him, which
Yeah.
is nice. But I mean, it's not like
That would
this
be
league
one of
is-
the highest left out.
yeah.
I mean, we always look at North Carolina. They were 19, I guess, a few years ago, but 23 is, I mean, that's historic.
But to finish again in this is the number 9 RPI conference. You've got no other teams that are in the top 65 in RPI. I mean, Southern Illinois is your next RPI team at 69. And I think Southern Illinois is good, by the way. They're not going to make a regional, despite the fact that they reached the conference tournament today, finals today. 44-16. They had a great year. They're clearly very good. I mean, and the committee won't look past the 69 RPI. It's just that's it. But like you can argue that, you know, they are more deserving than Dallas Baptist, but then the non-conference is part of it. The non-conference matters, and DBU has that going for them. So
Right.
fascinating case.
It's so different because usually you have the deal with the mid-major where they do great in conference, but they either don't play anyone non-conference, so you don't know how they stack up, or they don't do as well. And this is the complete opposite of that.
Yep.
So we don't know how to deal with it. We don't see it.
It's a weird case because, again, you know, your North Carolina example, it's a power 5 conference team with a poor conference record that had a high RPI. Like we see that fairly regularly. We don't see a team in a mid-major that finished mediocre in its league have a high RPI. It's just a totally unprecedented case. Bizarre. We'll come back to it. They're on the board for now in our bubble pool. Mountain West is Air Force. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
Man.
Nobody's going to want to see those guys as their 4 seed.
Yeah. I mean,
Or Paul Skeens.
I assume Paul Skeens would get the ball there, and he's a pretty talented guy. On we go. Northeast Conference
East
guys.
Key, Long
The
Island.
Sharks. The Sharks take care of business.
Blackbirds.
Don't call them the Blackbirds. They did beat Bryant. It's only I think appropriate that to win the formerly The artist formerly known as the Bryan Athletic Conference. They had
Is
to
it the
take that
Long
one out.
Island Athletic Conference now?
Yeah,
We'll have to work on that.
you got to go through Bryant.
You do. Congratulations to LIU. Ohio Valley Conference is SEMO. I mean, I don't know how many times we flipped back and forth between Belmont and SEMO this year.
And they went to the final and went extra innings.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
So good. Much like the MAC, the last two teams standing, battle it out to the death.
And about the SWAC today, they went back and forth for 812 innings.
Right?
Yeah, it was a bunch. Yeah.
And at one point, I think Southern had runners on second and third, one out, and didn't score to win the game. So
I was driving when all that happened. I think it was the 10th inning. Last I saw, I didn't know it went that deep.
Yeah.
Wild.
It was an exciting game.
Pac-12 guys, we've got Beavers, Ducks, Cardinal, Bruins, Wildcats, and I think we're locked in there. That's not in order, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And we're locked in. We're locked in at 5.
Yep.
Patriot League is Army. Congratulations. SEC, I mean, it's surprisingly easy here. Tennessee, A&M, Florida, Auburn. Those are your 4 hosts. And then you got Georgia, Vandy, Arkansas,
LSU.
and LSU. So, I mean, and that's it.
There's no room.
Yep.
Maybe there would have been room in a normal year for one of these 3, but the next 3, but there's not.
Teeny tiny bubble. So yeah, I mean, Ole Miss, Alabama, Kentucky. You're right. In another year, these teams would all be very much in discussion. Usually, teams with these profiles, oftentimes they get in. I mean, look at Alabama last year getting in.
Right.
This year, there's just no chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed it. What was it yesterday? Just about Ole Miss and the fact that the RPI was still 39.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually ahead of Arkansas right now in the RPI. So, would it be that crazy surprising if there was a surprise and Ole Miss got in? Probably not, just because of their RPI.
Yeah, out of those 3, I mean, Ole Miss, Alabama,
well, they have the RPI, right? That's and we've seen over the years that sometimes that matters, and then other times it doesn't.
Yeah, but that's just the one for me that stands out. If there's an RPI pick and you're kind of like, oh, I should have seen that coming, that would be it for me.
Yeah, and whereas Kentucky and Alabama both in the 50s in the RPI, coming off 12-win regular seasons, even though they made runs in Hoover, there's no chance. There's no chance for those. Ole Miss, yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't be shocked, but I just don't see.
I wouldn't put them in.
And the other thing is, if Kentucky got into a regional, they would be a scary team right now. Yeah, they're playing so well.
Yeah, they're playing well. Rajanu played really well.
They're healthy.
Hit the ball really well.
As healthy as they're going to get, and oh man, they were very, very impressive. Would not want to play them right now.
Yep. So SoCon, we teased this earlier. UNCG, how about this? I mean, they had to beat Wofford twice today. Wofford dominated this league.
Pounded them.
Yeah. Wofford won this league by 4.5 games. UNCG pounded them twice. Was it 10-2 and 12-2, I think?
And this was a format that Wofford went through, and they had only played 2 games heading into the day. They had no excuses. Because how many had UNCG played?
All of them.
5? Yeah. They played all the rest of them. Yeah. So it
1,
was
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, Greensboro went 6-1 this week.
Wow.
Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
That's bonkers. Billy Godwin. Hats off. Well done.
Yeah. Congrats.
Terriers, guys, on the bubble. I would have thought this would be a slam dunk, and I still like their chances. So let's go over it. 42-16-1 overall. 16-4-1 in their league. They did, like I said, they won it by 4.5 games. They did reach the championship game, a round of their conference tournament. So it's not like they laid an egg. And it's a 35 RPI. Now, as a SoCon team, You win, you run away with your league, you win 42 games, and you got a mid-30s RPI. Like, there's almost nothing else you could do shy of winning that automatic bid.
Yeah.
And they go to Dallas Baptist and won a series, a top 25 RPI team.
Yeah. The only thing that would give me pause about them is the fact they got blown out in their 2 championship games. It's not like they got upset. Like they got their what kicked.
I think a loss is a loss.
Yeah.
But
you're also losing those games like that with all the eyes of the committee watching.
Could be a factor.
That matters, in my opinion.
Could be a factor. Mark, where do you come down on this?
Well, their strength of schedule is not great. There's a lot of games against teams that aren't favored by the RPI. So you're able to get fat on that and build up your winning percentage, which helps your RPI. However, as you mentioned, I mean, they won a decent league and they won it going away. I mean, for a while there, this was a 2-bid league. We had Mercer there who was in it. Aaron, you went down there and saw him, right? You saw some of that series. So I think they're a good team and certainly an exciting team that can give people trouble. But I am so puzzled what happened to them today. I thought they were going to roll through this. I thought if anyone was going to give them trouble, it would be Samford, who's a veteran, they have some players, although they've roster flipped, they do have some guys back who won that league last year. They handled them, and then it's just so confusing. I don't know what to make them because I really thought they were just going to cruise in here and they would be competing for a 2 seed. Instead, They may not even make the field, guys.
It is.
I know that's not much analysis; it's more commentary, but it was really surprising.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to them. They're in our at-large bubble pool, but yeah, you're right. It was surprising. That is correct. Southland, we have Southeastern Louisiana takes down McNeese, which. Congratulations to the Lions. They were in regionals 3 times. I think during probably the J.R. Teagues era, right? When he was head coach there, 14, 15, 17, something like that.
I should have known. I should have known my McNeese boys were going to lose, and they showed up in cowboy chaps and goatees.
Too much swag? Is that too much swag?
That's too much swag.
Okay.
Maybe some other team should take notice.
Are you putting a certain
shelf? Just putting it up there on the
base?
You can reach up and grab it if it applies to you.
You know what? Drew Gilbert would totally wear chaps. He would 100% wear chaps. 100%.
Kendall just refused to leave that hanging. He had to just like make sure everyone knew what we were talking about. Just whack you over the head with it. Okay. Where are we? Southland. Okay, we got that one.
Yeah.
SWAC, we talked about. Who won that game?
Alabama State. My man Jose Vasquez and company.
Thank you. How many innings was it?
14 or 15?
14 or 15.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really, really well-played tournament. Bethune, I think it was Bethune and Florida A&M, I think, had a really close game. It was a really well-played tournament.
Cool.
Thank you. Hashtag loopy.
Hadn't got a lot of sleep this week, guys.
Cool. You should have just said cool story, bro. The summit, the Oral Roberts Athletic Conference.
Oral Roberts perennial powerhouse.
ORU won 21-2 today. So
it's a shellacking right there.
That's a scary 4 seed.
That's a paddling. On we go to the Sun Belt. We've got Louisiana as our automatic qualifier. That is one of our quote unquote stolen bids. Although this team was very much in our at-large hunt until late in the year.
Right.
We had them projected in for a number of our projections. So not like this team's out of nowhere. Texas State, of course, in Georgia Southern, obviously, and
Coastal
30 RPI. I mean, should they be, with that RPI, like they're basically right there RPI wise with Liberty, didn't
Mhm.
win their league. Like, are they necessarily ahead of Liberty?
I have them ahead. Yeah.
Should they be in the bubble pool, or do you think they're just safe? 30
Well,
RPI, 8-7 top 50.
I think they're in.
I do
Liberty
too.
Liberty 31 RPI won their league, reached their conference tournament
Well,
finals,
they didn't
7
win their
11
league.
top 50. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, Liberty didn't.
All that weird stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
but again, like that league, the two divisions didn't even play each other at all, and so they're like it's
Hmm.
basically two separate leagues. So like,
Yeah.
um,
But they tied with Kennesaw.
right, and then they split the head to head. So that was the whole thing was just
Hmm.
regardless. I mean, these teams are literally back to back in the RPI. I don't know. We can come back to it. For me, like I just don't see how if Coastal's a slam dunk, then Liberty's a slam dunk. I don't see how you can separate them. For me, they're just like
And I think they'll both end up getting in.
okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. West Coast Conference, San Diego takes down the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Congratulations to the Toreros. Brock Ungrick in his first year at the helm, getting it done. Gonzaga obviously in his not large team. Number 27 RPI. So 2-bid league there, quote unquote stolen bid.
Hmm.
And the whack, guys, New Mexico State. How about this one?
Yeah.
See that one
Didn't
coming,
see
Kendall?
that coming. No.
Not at
Kendall
all.
saw it coming. Martha saw it coming.
Never. Yeah.
Mexico State went 10-20 in the regular season in the whack, guys. 23-32.
Playing
And
for a championship.
they're going for regionals. But I mean, for better or for worse, the conference tournament system, this is what it gives you sometimes. It gives these teams hope. If you can just
Yeah.
sneak into your conference tournament, catch lightning in a bottle, you have a lousy year, but you got something to play for. Well, it's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Do we want to keep Grand Canyon off the board or put them back on the board for discussion?
They probably should be on the board for discussion. I mean, they're in our top 25 right now, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
They have a 49 RPI. Ran away with the league, 25-5. 7-5 top 50. Some good stuff out of conference. Swept Texas Tech in a 2-game midweek series. They beat the Beavers. Let's see where they 1-1 against the Beavers in that midweek set.
The problem one of the problems they're going to have, that's the 19th rated conference. You just don't get at-larges in that range.
Yeah. I mean, is that the end of it right there? I mean, the history doesn't.
When your RPI is over 50 and you're in the
So they're
19th
49
rated
right now. Is the
it-
most updated thing I see.
Okay.
Does that make a difference?
No, not really.
They did play Stanford also a couple times and split those 2 games 1-1. I mean, they did everything they could to play good teams. And basically held their own. They beat Arizona on the road midweek. I mean, I'm cherry picking some because they also had some losses here, non-conference, but
Swept Texas Tech in midweek, didn't they?
yeah, said that one. Actually, they beat Arizona twice in midweek on the road, lost to them at home. I mean, that's pretty good. They did lose a series at UC Irvine, who proved to be just okay. They lost the series at home to Nevada. I'm looking way back in February, ancient history, but still, it's part of the picture. Anyway, it's an interesting resume. So here's what we got. We got 68 teams for 64 spots. Here's the teams highlighted in yellow. Your bubble candidates. We got to trim 4 of these. Grand Canyon is 1. I'll go ahead and put Coastal and Liberty on here. Wofford, Dallas Baptist, Old Dominion. I mean, I guess UTSA is in this group. Rutgers, and Liberty.
Yeah.
I think that's the pool. Am I forgetting anybody?
Nope.
Okay, so out of this group, safest. Who do you like here, Mark? I
Coastal.
mean, Coastal. You have first.
Yep.
Would Liberty be
Yeah,
right there with them, or would you have Rutgers?
Yeah. Probably those three. And here's why. So with Coastal, they the second half of the year they've been really good. I can pull up the numbers, but they've just been a different team down the stretch. That's why I picked them to win the conference tournament. I thought they would do what Louisiana did, but obviously they lost the opener to Troy. They've lost 4 games since April 22nd. Okay, so they just went through and took 2 out of 3 from Georgia Southern, 2 out of 3 from South Alabama. Um, that's I guess that's the highlights. But they also beat Clemson, who we thought was a bubble team
At one point, they
earlier in the
were.
week.
Yeah.
So that and I just think that league, although now it's a 4-bid league, if they're there,
And does that work against them? Being
yeah,
a fourth
it might.
team?
It might. Not with
I mean,
me, but with some people, it might. Mm-hmm.
so compare it. I mean, it doesn't. If we have both them and Liberty, and then we don't have to necessarily.
So we can look at Liberty the same way.
So they won a series at Florida right out of the gate, which is
Right.
louder than any of these teams. Anything that these teams have done,
Mhm.
right?
No. Premium scoop.
Yeah. My wife calling from upstairs. I'm gonna give her the ignore treatment.
Yeah, at least she knows you're still in the house.
Yeah.
That's what I'm facing right now. You look familiar. Didn't we used to be married?
That's right. Who's that guy? Hey, Liberty swept Canisius. That's a regional team.
Hey, there you go.
So Liberty struggled in a lot of their midweeks, but they did beat North Carolina when won early.
Mm-hmm.
They split a couple games with Campbell in a weekend series. They had a cancellation in that series. And then, just kind of their conference. But yeah, they this last year they won. Last few years they've done very well midweek against ACC teams. Not so much this year.
Yeah. So if we look at it the way that often the committee does, is look at the RPI, look at quality wins, and look at conference championships. Those would be 3 criteria that I think typically carry the most weight based on watching this back when my hair was brown. So I think that's the thing that if you're trying to delineate and try to, because there's no really right answer here. It's what do you value? So those are the things that I think we need to look at to help pare this down. Now, mid-major conference champions, which Liberty and Coastal would not meet that criteria, typically get a little more leeway than a runner-up or a third place or what have you. So that works against these two.
I would argue that Liberty kinda is. I mean,
So you call them a division winner, right? Maybe that's fair.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, and again, like it's
And
basically
they did,
2 separate conferences.
and then they roll through that weird ass pool play tournament.
The whole deal was weird.
They went 4-0, and then 2 teams that went 1-2 that they beat played each other in the other semifinal, and then one of them who they'd already beat them in the final to take the auto bid. I mean, that's just
I give up.
broken.
I give up.
But yeah,
Mark,
so
go ahead. Finish your thought.
yeah, and I was just gonna say, 'cause I see a lot of
I want you to
where's all
address
the
some of that
SEC?
chatter. I want you to address some of the chatter in a second.
Where's all the SEC stuff? I mean, Kentucky and Alabama, they don't have the RPIs to get in. If you finish, okay, historically, if you finish outside the top 40 in the RPI, you better have a winning conference record, or you're not getting in. If you have a losing conference record, say like all of these teams do, you better have an RPI maybe 35 or less
Or better,
to get
right?
in, or you just don't. That's not how they do it every year. Right or wrong, it's not for me to say, but that's just what the
Precedent
observation is.
precedent is what we have to go by here. You
Yeah.
know,
So Kentucky, very dangerous team, but I mean their RPI is 51 or whatever it is now,
right?
52.
Yeah, that's tough.
SEC team, you're not getting in with a 52 unless you did like Arkansas. You won a whole bunch of games because Arkansas has an RPI problem, but they won 18 conference games.
Right.
So that's
Mhm.
different
And even with
than
that
winning.
run in Hoover, I mean,
Yeah.
Kentucky's what, 15-20 or something in conference?
Well, if you play
Did they
enough,
win 3?
eventually you're going to win 18.
Did Kentucky win 3 this week? I lost track of all
They
that.
won. They went
3
three
and
and
2?
two or two
Yeah.
and two, three
3
and
and
two,
3 and
three
2.
and
So they got to 15-20 aggregate with a 50 something RPI. It just doesn't add up. And I'm sorry. And I get it. Like they have more, of course they have more conference or quality wins than these mid-major teams. Like
two.
SEC
Yeah.
teams are always going to have more quality wins than a team in, the SoCon or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But like
Well,
that's why we have the
More
RPI
opportunity.
is to more opportunity. That's why one reason we have tools like the RPI is to try to compare teams in different leagues that play different schedules. Because like
yeah.
if you want the field to be all SEC, ACC, and Big 12 and Pac 12 and just like leave all the rest of the teams out, then you can do that. But that's not what we're doing here. We have to balance these things.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
coming, but that's a discussion
Maybe
for
that's
another
coming.
podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, the issue Kentucky has is, I had a lot of Kentucky fans kind of tweet at me asking, like, how could our RPI be that bad? And here's why. They had series against Jacksonville State, who's 173, Western Michigan, 255, a 3-game series against High Point, 195, 2 midweek games against Bellarmine, who's 282, 283, Morehead State, who's 157. You kind of get the picture. That's why
And
their
it's
RPI is bad.
and that's a good point, but it's not just that you're getting those teams. Then you're getting the teams that they play because that's the formula, right? It's
Right.
opponents and then opponents. So those aren't teams in very good leagues. That what you want to do is you want to play teams with high winning percentages or teams who play teams with high winning percentages.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I
Not a
had to
lot of
nerd out for a minute.
well, that's well said though. I mean, there's not a lot of upside in scheduling Western Michigan. I
Mhm.
mean, that's gonna hurt you. I can tell you that right now. So back to our discussion here. Coastal Liberty Rutgers. We've got
So
room
let's
for
talk about Rutgers.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, again, I'm being an old guy here, but traditionally, a Big Ten team that does well in conference, even if their RPI isn't maybe what an SEC team or some other team, usually there's a little bit of flexibility there.
Yeah.
And I do think that, you know, call it the snowbird bonus or whatever you want to call it, you're able to, because of the challenges in scheduling, that you're going to get some benefit of the doubt, and they're going to overlook, hey, you played all these 200 plus RPI teams, but it's more because you didn't have a lot of local options, and it's sort of a it's not written off, but it's more understood, and and where someone like Wofford, who's in the middle of SEC, ACC, they have a lot of people they can play, right? So it's just a different scenario completely.
Right. That's fair. Absolutely, and that's why I think Rutgers is the
And
best
that's why
team.
you have people in the room instead of just looking at an RPI,
Right.
because if you're just going to take the best 32 or 34 at larges, then you just, hey, put it in Excel and sort it. But
Right.
that's not what we're doing.
Yep.
I hope we're not.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, should Rutgers even be ahead of a Liberty or a Coastal? I mean, or do you think they're behind? I think
I
it's a
think
good
they're
spot.
getting in.
Yeah.
However you want to order it, I don't. I'm not too concerned, but I think they're
Sure,
getting
yeah.
in.
Like if we're doing last four in, first four out, like what's our ladder? Because this is where we are. I think we have 8 teams here, so this is our last four in, first four out. We're
Okay.
trying to sort out right
Then yeah, I would go Rutgers,
now. Rutgers,
Liberty, Coastal, and or Coastal Liberty.
I'd go Coastal Liberty Rutgers.
Coastal Liberty Rutgers, or I think I would go
Oh, really?
Coastal Rutgers
I
Liberty.
would have Rutgers higher.
Yeah, or maybe Rutgers Coastal Liberty. I think I would have Rutgers the highest of the three. I think they're the most
I would
likely
too.
to get in.
I think they're going to get some
Because you could envision Coastal
understanding.
as a fourth team in that league, maybe getting squeezed out. I don't think it'll happen, but you could see it. I don't think Rutgers gets squeezed out.
Yeah.
Rutgers, Coastal, Liberty, and then we got one more.
Yeah, this is
I
hard
mean,
because all of these teams should be in. I mean, if you look at it, okay, Michigan won, UNCG won, Missouri State won, San Diego won, New Mexico State won, Kennesaw State won, Louisiana won. If those scenarios there go the other way, that would be 7 spots freed up.
That's our total number of stolen bids is 7.
Well, I'm not going to go there because San Diego could have gotten in.
Sure, yeah.
Kennesaw, I don't know.
You wouldn't have, but
Probably wouldn't.
they were
Louisiana.
in
They were, those are close. You can argue it, and I probably will. But those 7 spots going into the week that we weren't counting on. We either didn't expect them to win the auto and thought they'd be in the bubble pool, or we thought they would just lose and they drop off the bubble and somebody would take their spot.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think this is the hardest one that we've had. I'll go back and confirm, but I think this is.
I'll say this out of just looking at these 5 teams, out of all these teams, like at the end of the day, like what does the committee typically just kind of lean back on? It's the RPI, right?
Sure.
And if you look at it, Dallas, but right now, if you look at the top, let's say 33 in our field, Dallas Baptist would be the only team in the top 33 not to make it, and they would have the number 1 non-conference strength of schedule. And what do we all kind of think is the reason Notre Dame didn't get a host? Because they're 259th non-conference strength of schedule.
Yep.
So if we think that's one of the reasons Notre Dame didn't get a host, then what's going to help Dallas Baptist? The fact they're number 1 non-conference strength of schedule.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. The flip side to that is Wofford went there and beat them, and they're both on the bubble.
Right.
Yeah.
And Wofford won their league, and DBU finished 3rd, like 4.5 games back, and then didn't do great in their conference tournament. And Wofford at least reached the finals of the conference tournament. Like I got Wofford ahead of DBU.
I do too.
And I get what you're saying, Kendall, but
and again, I think Kendall is trying to predict what the committee will do, not what the D1 brain trust or lack of brain trust will do. So I think that the key is trying to, we don't know because the committee changes every year and you have different ideas and the game is changing too. So you can't always rely on this.
I mean, frankly, for me,
if 2 teams are equal and they played each other, that's a wonderful tiebreaker, especially if you won it on their home field.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, personally, for me, if I was putting together the field by myself and with no other input, I would have UTSA and ODU both in.
I do like UTSA in. I mean, I like them both. Gosh, I hate leaving out any of these teams.
So who would you kick out?
I mean, go back to Liberty. I mean, but I mean, they have an RPI and they have whatever division title, whatever you want to call it, and a strong run to the conference, and then the Florida series win.
Yeah. So I'm gonna think like a committee again. If you look at Liberty, like recency bias with those guys is they went to the Knoxville Regional last year and played for didn't they play for the championship last year?
They played well.
Yeah. So like recency bias would be like, the metrics may not look amazing on Liberty, but
metrics aren't bad though.
They've proven they're legit.
Yeah, and for an A-Sun team to be
Yeah.
31 in the RPI and have won a series on the road against a host.
If you're going to play that with Liberty, though, what did DBU do last year?
Yeah,
they won a regional.
That's right. They went to Supers.
That's true.
But then again, I mean, just laid an egg in their conference. Like for me, it's. We got bots. We got bots. Welcome to the bots. Good to see you.
Damn Russians.
We're going round and round, and this is how it goes because this is really hard. So
Again,
is there anyone? Yeah,
there's no way to break this clean.
No.
So you mentioned
nervous.
UTSA and ODU. I mean,
Yep.
do we want to pursue that line of questioning, counselor?
Right. So we all already agreed that we have UTSA ahead of ODU.
Yeah. Again, head to head.
So that's yes, head to head among other slight factors. Head to head went deeper this week. They had the same record in regular season. A couple of spots higher in the RPI. I mean, more top 50 wins, 9 and 10 versus ODU's 8 and 7. I don't. What did you say? Did you say ODU's 5 and 1, top 25? Is that right? Is that what I heard earlier?
I don't remember that.
It can't be. It is 5 and 1.
Oh.
Who are those games against?
Southern Miss.
Ah, yes. Anyway, it's close between those two. I like UTSA just to tick ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I do too. I think the question is, do you like them, more than Wofford? Do you like them more than DBU or Coastal?
I think I would have UTSA ahead of all those teams. I mean, it's a 37 RPI, so it's not like they're in the 40s now. I think that's helpful. They reached their conference tournament finals. I mean, they, 19-11 in the regular season. I mean, I think the metrics are pretty solid, and they had a good week.
Yeah, it's the number 5 league too.
And they would only be the third team in that league, whereas Coastal would be the fourth.
Yeah, that's a good point. We saw that with host today, or at least that's my theory.
Yeah. Well, so the one thing I will say about Coastal is look at the non-conference strength of schedule for Coastal versus UTSA. 2 versus 178.
Coastal's number 2, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
We could have Coastal ahead of UTSA. We could go Rutgers, Coastal, UTSA, and then it comes down to Liberty, Wofford.
I would have Liberty ahead of Wofford.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt over a SoCon team.
I think you're probably right. It is more top 50 games and wins. It's the Florida series win, which certainly trumps the DBU series win. I mean, yeah, I think the DBU series win helps Wofford when it comes to stacking up against DBU.
Correct.
Yeah.
But when it comes to stacking
the
up
Florida series win is the one that, like, if you're a committee member, you're like, oh wow, that's pretty good.
Credibility.
That's the trump card. Yeah, I think I'm with you. UTSA, Liberty, Wofford would be team 65. DBU, ODU, GCU. Should Ole Miss be in here? I mean, we had a question here. Someone said
I would put Ole Miss in the next 4 just in case.
Yeah, I mean, someone said
because they're the one team, like, instead of like forcing somebody like West Virginia, like they're the one team that like could be a total surprise just because of an RPI pick.
Well, we wouldn't have to force West Virginia.
Yeah, Wofford, DBU, ODU, Grand Canyon, Ole Miss. So
if we did last 5, first 5, that's how you could do it. But
right.
Who would be? How would you order those teams with Ole Miss as the 5th one? I agree. That's
Wofford would be first. Yep. DBU would probably be second. ODU be third. Then if you want to do Ole Miss over Grand Canyon, I don't know. It's a what do you value?
Yeah.
I'd probably go Grand Canyon, but
I think Grand Canyon had the better year.
mhm.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, if you look at what they attempted to do and did do in non-conference,
Mhm.
I know, it was mixed. They had some wins and some losses. They played good teams and they held their own
Mhm.
and they dominated their league. So yeah, I hate that none of these teams that we
I
just
know.
talked about are going to be in regionals.
It's gutting. It really is. You think about those programs. It's brutal because normal year, some of these are in comfortably that aren't even in.
Yep.
They're not even the first 4 out.
Yeah, just and we had some chaos today. We had some chaos this weekend.
Mhm.
And again, it's cool for these teams, the New Mexico States of the world, that saved their season with a last ditch effort. But the flip side of that is we're not getting our best 64 teams in the field. That's the downside of the conference tournament system, is that it does, upsets are fun. You get some Cinderella stories, but you're also not getting the best 64 teams, because that means a team that, like Grand Canyon, that won that league by, let's see, they finished 15 games, guys. Grand Canyon finished 15 games ahead of New Mexico State. Do I need to say that again? Grand Canyon finished
Is that good?
15 games ahead of New
That's a
Mexico State.
lot.
25-5, 10-20. But guess what? The Aggies are going to regionals.
Which one's still playing?
The Lopes probably are not. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, it's tough.
Oh, boy. Tough. Well, we did have a question about whether we're going to do the pairings live in the year. No. I think this show has gone on long enough.
Yeah.
We will do those off air. We will have this projection up as soon as possible.
Working on it.
Yep. It should be up within the half hour, 45 minutes at the latest.
I'll get the table started. You can do the topper.
Mark's probably already got the pairings done. He's probably doing it while we've been talking. The NMG, the Nerdmaster General, he's a legend when it comes to multitasking. He's the anti-Kendall.
He's earning his 4th star.
Oof.
Right,
yeah,
guys,
give me good Yelp reviews for this week.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Good Yelp reviews. Hey, give us good YouTube reviews if you're watching the live stream. Give us a thumbs up.
Subscribe.
Subscribe would be awesome. We appreciate it. We got a lot of engagement here, a lot of people watching along. We really should.
The other thing I was going to mention too is we only have a couple more days left for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. If you subscribe with an annual subscription, 20% of the revenue from that does go to the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. So just a couple more days of that promotion.
And it's a cause that I know has touched several of us personally here on this show, and we believe in it. So thank you. Guys, this was fun. Let's cut it short so we can get these projections up. I know people are waiting for them. Hey, thanks again to all of our listeners, our viewers, for following along. I have enjoyed watching the comments. I know we haven't responded to a ton of them, but we appreciate it. It's been a great week. We'll be with you, of course, all week long. When we get into regional play, the mania continues. That's another really fun week. We'll have people scattered around covering things. Mark will be, I don't know if you're going to keep doing the Mark blog or what, but that's
I'm going to try it if my marriage can handle it.
It can handle it.
Your wife's going to be like, wait, there's regionals and then there's super regionals?
Yeah.
What?
Are there super duper
She's
regionals?
not on board with this. Yeah.
Hey, you marry the Nerdmaster General, you know what you're getting into. Or if you don't know, now you do.
Maybe we should live together first.
Hey, wait, baseball season. Yeah. Wait about 4 weeks and Mark's lawn is going to be immaculate. Yeah. He's going to be out there he's going to be out there with a toothbrush in the crack of the driveway.
Everything's going to have to be perfect. I got a lot to make up for.
All right. That's it, guys. Thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.